What is up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Beat the Maze. It's Ian B.
And it's your girl, Jasia.
And we are back this week with another special guest, a dear, dear friend of mine, my brother, Paul Johnson. What's up, Paul?
Hey, what's up, man? I said, glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you.
Be on the podcast, yeah.
I'm glad to have you. So we're going to jump right into it, bro. For our audience, could you just tell them a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do?
I'm the president and co-founder of a boutique sports marketing agency, go by the name of Resolute Sports Group. Where we do there, we help our clients establish their brand awareness, marketability, and just help connect them with different brands and partnerships, as they, matriculate through their, collegiate career.
Absolutely.
So tell us more. Well, how have you been this week? We're going to go around and talk about how we've all been this week. Because you forgot that part. We got to talk about
I had
to
going. I'm excited. So I'm gonna keep it short and sweet because I'm just really excited to get to this interview. But I've been doing good. I've had a great week. Put some investment into my business, really just kickstarting this next level and then just ramping up what I want to do and figuring out where I want to go. So we want to hear more about that later, but it's not about me right now. How you doing?
I've been great. This week has been very fun. Mm-hmm. I've been enjoying it, doing work and being able to be outside in this nice weather. Paul, how are you?
So I'm well, every week is always an up and down, but you take the good with the bad. But overall, there's been a great week. Some good news, some good things coming, just progression. So always a good week when it's progression.
I love that. So let's start from the very beginning. You were born in Liberia, you were raised in Philly. How did you get to this idea that you wanted to move into the sports world and you wanted to start working with different athletes?
The idea kind of sparked in my head in high school, but I never really kind of knew the direction that I kind of wanted to go in. Like I played sports my whole life. If Ian can tell you, I played basketball, football, ran track, played basketball, played baseball for a little bit before even getting to, high school. And in high school, sports about a season. So you can't do track and do baseball, but always, a sports enthusiast. So just like being around the game, football especially. So I got the idea to, just kind of sparked in my head that I wanted to kind of be on the other side of it, be on the, business aspect of it. And that's something that where I come from, people don't often, think about, right? It's like you want to go and you want to be a pro. And if you don't ever go, professional in that sport, I guess your love for the sport is over. You go end up doing something else that doesn't really align with kind of what you want to do, right? And young, I knew that I wasn't gonna go to the pros, but I still wanted to be around the game. I love being around the game. I love talking to people. I love the management aspect, business aspect. Like I'm a sales guy. And I feel as though salesmen kind of get that sleazy rap, but salesmen are some of the best people to kind of talk to people. That even Ian can even tell you, like in high school, when Ian used to sell them cookies, I used to be right there with him.
The only person that used to sell with me, bro. Like
selling them cookies, just helping out wherever I can. But it's just like salespeople have a niche of kind of talking to people. So I kind of embody that salesman, mentality, when I kind of speak with, clients, anything that sort of. But I took the business aspect of sports and kind of combine the two, because that's just where the love comes from. Like you still get that rush of being in the game. You still get to be around the game, although you're not physically playing. Everything that kind of gave me that, sense of belonging when I was playing, and everything that kind of gave me that rush and excitement, I get the same thing on the management side, right? So and like every day it's like the same thing. You kind of chasing, like the same type of dream, but just from a different, side of the table. So that's where the idea came from. Like I always loved sports, always wanted to be around it. Like I knew a lot about it, but never knew about the business aspect, and kind of thought like that was the direction I wanted to go. At first, I thought I wanted to be a sports lawyer, but then the idea came about being an agent, and then I thought that I would needed to go to law school to be an agent. And then I interned with an agent, and he told me unless you want to actually practice law, you don't need a law degree to be an agent, right? You know, it's way more expensive. It's longer time in school when the NFLPA don't require you to have a law degree. It just require you to have a graduate degree. So I took the sports management route and took some sports law classes, some contract law classes as electives to kind of get that same idea without actually going to law school.
For sure.
So I like how you talked about like you being a salesman and like learning those skills and ability. And I'll say like, Ian, you said you grew up selling. I grew up learning how to sell and learning that from my mother. And we witnessed a young guy about 15 last night, and he was cold selling this product to everyone. And it was like the importance that skill is so important. Like the ability to talk to someone and be able to like get your idea off in like, your elevator pitch, that's so important. And then to follow that up
and
with
do it
like
confidently.
Yes. So how do you feel like that's affected you in your career and your ability to go out here and be a marketing agent and to be an agent for big names and to get them the marketing deals?
So being a salesman and like when I was younger, like definitely helped a lot because you're going to get a lot of no's like selling stuff, right? It's people who not going to want part of your product. They're not going to want what you're selling. You're probably going to get some rude people here and there. You're probably going to get some people that turn you away. It's never always positive, right? So when you going into an industry like this, it's essentially the same thing. I done got 100 no's before I got one yes, right? And sometimes that's just, some people in my shoes who don't really have the ability to take a no. That first couple no's, they feel as though, they're a failure and they don't want to actually, progress to the next level. Every single no that I get motivates me more to kind of go finally chase that yes. So like being a salesman, it's sometimes, like I said, people would not want to, buy what you're selling, but you're going to keep, but eventually somebody is going to, like what you, have that you offer. And that's pretty much how I kind of ended up, in this position and even ended up with clients. Like I DM a bunch of clients, talk to a bunch of, potential clients in a sort. And you get a lot of no's, you get a lot of curves, you get a lot of left on red, even older people in the industry. It's definitely a cutthroat industry, just like the music industry, just like fashion. People on the inside kind of like being on the inside, right? And so even something simple as like asking for advice, people don't like to share with you kind of what they got going on because you never want to play your hand. So like being a salesman, sometimes that's essentially the same thing. If you was in a store and you're making commission off of, something that you're selling, and you and everybody is in that same, and I didn't see it firsthand, right? Like I used to work at Nordstrom, back when, I was in college, and I didn't work with sales, but I worked a lot around salespeople because I worked directly with the manager as an assistant. But seeing people who was making money off, commission when different customers came in, it seemed like everybody mindsets changed. Some people were rude to others because they wanted to be that one to get that sale. And the industry is kind of like the same like that. So being a salesman, sometimes you can't let a no get you down, right? And you can't, just kind of end what you got going on because you got a couple no's. Eventually somebody's gonna like what you're selling. So I just kind of took that same mindset and put it, in this business aspect.
So where does that come from? Because like you mentioned, so many people have and I've been a victim of it myself, where sometimes you get a couple no's and it's like, well, is this really for me? Or you get maybe some people that you might value their opinion and they say, oh, I don't know if this is really, what you should be doing. And it's kind of like, you start second guessing yourself, and that's not what good entrepreneurs, that's not what they embody. And as long as I've known you, as long as we've known you, you have always been a resilient minded person. So where would you say that come from, or where did that start? Or have you just kind of always remember being like that?
No, and so to be honest, that came from like two places. One, selling cookies with you. Like, to be honest, if you really want to be honest, that like that first step, because it's like I remember you'll be selling your cookies and brownies and stuff, and like I came to you and asked you, oh, like said, do you want me to sell some of this? I wasn't making it wasn't like I was making any money off it, but the idea of just going around talking to people and getting comfortable in that space, that was the first step. I was like, hey, like being confident, be able to talk to people, like if you really, kind of get this right, and you can be able to sell air conditioners in the winter. Like sometimes it get like that, so you got to really know how to sell yourself. So even in interviews, you're selling yourself, right? Like every time you got to know how to talk to people and know what exactly, you are and what you're trying to provide for them. So like that came with one, selling, like in high school, being able to talk to people and sell, stuff. But also, honestly, that came from dating as well. Like a lot of people understand it, like when you're dating, you're essentially selling yourself, right? Like not in a negative way, but you kind of have to bring your best self to the table. So when you first meet a girl, she, just like in an interview, oh, tell me about yourself, right? Like this girl, she want to know about you. She want to know some of the things that make you great. So you always got to bring your best self to the table. So and anybody know with dating, you're not always going to get a yes. Feel me? You're going to get curved a bunch of times, and a lot of times I feel as though a lot of people, when it comes to dating, they get curved so much that they think that they go and they settle, or they never actually, or they just stop dating. To be honest, so I took that same aspect from dating. Like, you're going to get a lot of no's with dating, right? Like, I done had the pleasure of dating some beautiful women, but I've also had the pleasure of getting curved by some beautiful women. It happens throughout your life, but it's like, did those curves stop me from still thinking that I can be with beautiful women down the line? No, it didn't. So that was the first step. Like, growing up, like sometimes you'll get curved by girls, especially young. Like I used to get curved by like girls all the time, but it was also some girls who like me. So eventually, you kind of build that confidence up, and you kind of understand that, okay, this person said no. Like, there's somebody out there for everybody, right? Like, that's the mindset that people have. It's the same thing as sales, right? Like, there's somebody who's gonna like your product. It's the same thing in the management side. There's somebody who's gonna like the type of manager you are and want to be with you. Those relationships kind of go hand in hand. So I took the aspect of being able to talk to women, essentially.
Oh, so you touched on a critical piece about being a man, about being an entrepreneur, about just being a good person, as I call it, being a good communicator. You touched on that confidence piece. And I want to take that confidence, and I want to kind of transition a little bit into you're getting your first client.
And before we even go in there, I would like to say, what even is the NIL? Like, for people like me, I don't even know what the NIL is. Can you explain to us what that is for our audience?
Okay. So NIL refers to name, image, and likeness. So last year, the NCAA finally decided on, the idea to kind of allow players to capitalize off their name, image, and likeness, right? So meaning that not essentially it's so I done wrote different articles like this when I was in school on NIL in a sense, and just paying athletes as a whole, right? So a lot of people, when it came to the idea of paying athletes, they didn't like the NCAA directly paying athletes. But one of the things that and personally, I didn't really like the NCAA directly paying athletes too, because there's so many different moving pieces that come with that, right? Because who would you essentially like? Who would you pay? Would you only pay the major sports? Would you only pay, Division I? Would you only pay, men's basketball, football? Like who would you pay? So directly paying them kind of went out the window, and a lot of people didn't understand why, but there's so many moving pieces. but the NIL aspect kind of give you to kind of capitalize off your own image and likeness. So however you decide to go about that, and it's and obviously sometimes they have more popularity than others, but at the same time, it makes it fair game. And a lot of people don't know, but when it comes to NIL, a lot of women athletes are doing way, way better in this space than men. The reason being because women know how to brand themselves better on social media, and social media plays a big part in today's age. A lot of these, women basketball players and gymnasts and stuff, I know there's a gymnast from LSU, and she had 1.2 million, followers on Instagram, right? And she's really big on TikTok, right? So when it comes to doing NIL deals, companies are going to look at that. They're going to look at how you're branding yourself, followers that you do have, how you're establishing your marketability, and and everything in that sort. So women are doing way better than a lot of the men in the spaces, because no matter if you at Division II, Division I, JUCO, if you know how to market yourself, NIL kind of gave them that space, right? Because before, you couldn't even go make a YouTube channel, and the NCAA wouldn't like that, right? And if some players have done it in the past, so you couldn't even take rides from a booster. Like you couldn't even take, like a car ride, down the road, or accept food from a booster, a coach, or anybody in that sense, because technically that would count against your amateurism, right? So when they came up with this last year to allow players to kind of have the free will to pretty much get endorsements, do philanthropy work, anything of that sort, a lot of people kind of took off with it. Like I said, some people who already had their brand established kind of did well in that space, such as, a lot of young women kind of did well in that space. And then you had some young men who was, really big on social media as well, and already had their brand established, and they took that. But then what I do in my field is helping some of those athletes who don't know, or direct them in a way of, establishing not like their marketability, or creating their brand, because a lot of them don't know their brand. So before you even get to that next level of being a pro, and then you go there and now companies are reaching out to you because you're a pro, you don't know how to handle that money. You don't know how to go about looking over contracts for yourself. You don't know anything of that sort. So I try to help my clients with anything, even contracts that we get. I have them look at I look at the contract, but I have them look at their own contract, because it's like, you need to know what you're getting yourself into.
That's
so. So before you get to the next level, you know how to handle these things. So I feel as though NIL kind of gave a great thing for a lot of these, athletes. They're being handled as pros before they even get to the pro level, right? So that's essentially what NIL is: name, image, and likeness.
I love that. That shows that you're a man of integrity. Like you don't hear too many people say, I have my clients actually read their contracts, because especially if you're young and you're in this athletic space, you normally don't tend to pay too much attention to it. It's like, oh, my agent will do it. So I think that really shows you as a person and how much you truly care about the athletes and like how well they do in their image and likeness. Yeah. So back to your question as to how did you get to getting your first client to come on, your first athlete to come on and to trust you with their marketing?
Great segue, Jeff. Great segue.
Yeah. So when I was in my last semester at LSU, I was leaving. I started working. So I started working with this company. Not going to name no names, but I started working with this company, just interning, trying to learn the game, and I did learn a great deal of information from them. And the CEO at the time, he told me, he said, we got on the call, and he said, hey, if you want to get your first client, sometimes do it right now. Don't keep waiting. Reach out to people, right? He was like, I feel as though you have a good niche for this, because just the way talk to me. So go out and try to get your client, get your first client now, because sometimes it just takes you starting, right? So he was like, learn the marketing, because the marketing is where essentially the bread and butter at. Even if I go and I end up becoming an NFLPA certified agent, having that marketing aspect and having that marketing background will take you a long way, right? Being able to do both because there are some agents who on a pro level, they only handle contracts. They don't handle marketing, you know, and they have somebody else that handles, you know, marketing for them. But being able to have both of those, you know, kind of like take you a long way. So he told me to kind of just go and get, you know, my first client. So I was like, okay. So I kind of DM'd a lot of athletes at the time, and obviously a lot of the ones that, you know, have bigger names, some people left me on red. Some people said, hey, I wasn't interested. Some people said they were interested, and then you get on a call and the next day they say, hey, sorry, but I decided to go another way. Right? Some people said they were interested, and you called them, they gave you the number, you called them, and they don't pick up, right? And instead of getting discouraged, I kept going. Like I would literally probably DM, you know, like that was the only thing I was doing on social media, right? Just trying to get clients, trying to, you know, get into this space. So I ended up getting a couple clients on a call. A lot of them liked, you know, what I had to say, and they decided that they were, you know, gonna move forward. So we build relationships off of that, and we got on the phone. Got on calls with their parents, because sometimes you got to include the parents of whoever is handling, you know, because sometimes these are 18, 19-year-old, you know, kids, 20, depending on, you know, like who you are, and sometimes older, right?
Right.
So end up getting a call, and then like my first client, he was supposed to come on with the agency that I was working at. I ended up getting the contract from the CEO, the contract that he wanted me to go get this client to sign. He literally only wanted me to get the contract signed. He was like, here's the contract, make sure he signs this contract. So I sent him the contract. But before even, like, you know, while I sent it to him, I looked over the contract, right? I was like, let me actually, because at this point, I already took contract, you know, like law and sports law classes. And I was like, let me look over this contract. I looked over the contract, and the contract didn't really look right to me, right? You know, it wasn't a contract that really looked right to me. And then on top of that, they sent me my own contract, because at this point now, I'm essentially a part of, you know, the team, right? So they sent me my own contract. I looked over my contract, and my contract didn't look right, right? Like my NDA didn't look right, and I asked, and I talked to a few people, and I was like, hey, this company has a big name. Should I just pretty much rock out with what they giving me, you know, or like, you know, or should I just like not do this, right?
So what specifically didn't look right about it? Was it just kind of like gray areas, too many gray areas, or?
So one, they like as far as like the athlete contract, one, they were in a contract for a long time. Like two, they wasn't really providing much, in the athlete as well as me, you know, because they're under me, would have to pay for everything. So I'm like, if you're the agency and I'm not under you financially, why am I here, just for the name? You know, so if I'm not under you financially and I have to put out everything myself, why can't I just do it on my own? Because I'm gonna have to put out money myself regardless. And then it was just different, you know, gray areas, certain things that didn't make sense, like the termination period, like the way you kind of had to go about terminating your contract was kind of a little sketchy. You know, not really going to get into the details of it, but it just the whole contract didn't really look right. And the client at the time, they wanted me to just go and have him sign his contract.
Just blind.
We met up. Yeah, like we met up. I brought him the contract. I brought him a physical, you know, copy of the contract. He already had the one that he looked at. I told him, like before he even like looked at the contract, I said, to be honest, I actually don't really want to work with this company no more. So before he even signed the contract, I was like, I actually don't want to. So I was like, I know I sent you this contract. Like, saying, to be honest, like, I don't really like how it looked, and I don't want to put you into a situation that's going to look bad on me. So I was like, I've been thinking about, you know, just kind of going solo and just starting this thing on my own. So if you want to, you know, essentially come and just do this thing solo, like, we can work out, you know, something, and pretty much start this ourselves. And he was like, to be honest, when I came here, I wasn't even going to sign this contract. I really just came here to ask you more about the contract, because he was like, I looked over with my dad and this contract didn't even look right. Wow. So he was like, yeah. So he was like, I wasn't even going to sign this contract. So he was like, so he was like, the fact that you actually saw it, and the fact that you said something about it, and that you was leaving before, you even came here to, make me sign this contract. I kind of like that person you are, right? Like essentially, he kind of, he was kind of rocking. I ain't want to curse and stuff, but he kind of liked, what I had to say about it. And he decided that he was gonna come solo with me, right? And like we were just gonna do this solo, and it was essentially a risk on both ends, because we were both going into it with not essentially knowing a lot. But then 3 months after that, after getting him his first deal, I went to a game, talked to his dad. His dad was like, man, like he liked the work that you're doing. I said, like this can be a story for somewhere down the road. Both of you guys took a chance on each other, right? And he kind of gave me that affirmation, like his dad saying I was able to do good work, kind of gave me that affirmation, like I could actually really do it in this space. So I was like, let me go ahead and try to get more clients and add into this, because I didn't want to go and get more clients if I didn't feel affirmed in what exactly I was doing. So, but yeah, getting that first client was hard. But once you get your foot in the door, everything else comes after that. Like they say, like your first client always helps you get other ones. Not like physically go and get other ones, but the fact that people see that they're, working with you, somebody is trusting you, right? And it also gives you the confidence to go out and do and get other clients and stuff. So yeah,
that's human psychology. People don't want to do things. Not everybody is built to do things by themselves, but once they see, it's the same thing. I heard the same thing with like Instagram comments and marketing. They're like, if people see you, like something as simple as that, if people see other people commenting on your stories, on your posts, they're more likely to comment. And I'm so glad, that you brought that up, because I think that is so important for so many entrepreneurs to see, like, it's not, your first one is not always going to be easy, but if you really keep going, if you, like Jay said, if you keep that resilient mindset and that integrity, because the integrity shown through before you ever even, like worked with them. So I love that story, bro. Love it.
It's the consistency over motivation. Like you got to be consistent, because it's some days that you might not be as motivated, but if you stay consistent in what you're doing, you're always going to get to where you want to be, right? Like it's like not forcing yourself in that space, but progressively getting yourself there. So like consistency, like always, because like I said, in any aspect, don't matter if it's in sports, it's in fashion. Like even if like you take fashion, for example, and there's somebody who they got this great line that they just came out with, their product is good, the quality of their, clothes is good. Nobody would kind of want to buy this because they don't really have a big name to it. But then once they see, other people, buying it, they're like, oh, like I'm kind of interested. That's why you have some of these companies who they're so big, some of these clothing companies, they're so big that no matter what they put out, I don't care how ugly it is, people are going to want to buy this product because everybody is going to buy. Everybody's going to buy something from Gucci. I don't care if Gucci put out some flip-flops that, with the tongues all messed up that say Gucci today. If a celebrity going to rock it, somebody's going to rock it. So like you said, it's simple psychology. People always like what they see others doing or having. So it's the same thing in this space. Like people are going to ask, oh, like, who else do you have signed to you? And then and if you're like, oh, I mean, I don't have nobody, they like, oh, well, I want to go I want to go an experience route, right? Mm-hmm. But if everybody want to go an experience route, right? How is the people who's not experienced going to get their first experience?
Yeah.
So it's like, you yourself just got to keep being consistent, because there is somebody out there that's going to take a chance on you, right? And then when you get that chance, you just got to run with it.
For sure.
So Paul, I love that your group is called Resolute Sports Group, and you say that you're a boutique sports marketing agency dedicated to helping your clients increase their marketability, establish brand awareness, and gain sponsorship. I really want to emphasize and focus on that increase their marketability and establish brand awareness, because I know branding for us looks differently. I'm in the lifestyle world, Ian's in the motivational speaking world. Branding looks different for us in marketability.
Yeah.
How does branding look as an athlete? Because I know from friends of mine that there's certain things they can post, there's certain things they can't post, certain things their audience cares about and doesn't. How do you, as the marketing agent, curate a story for each of your clients?
So it essentially depends on what you want to do with your, with your own brand, the type of person you are. So I have an athlete who he loves working with kids, right? He loves community work, being in the community. He spent a lot of time in, Children's Hospital when he was younger. So his love come with, working with kids in that aspect, and being around kids. So we do stuff with kids. We do, community-based stuff, like that's his, idea. And even play, like play on words or play on, the things that like nicknames and things in that sort. So like one of my clients, everybody call him Cyborg, right? So we got this whole cyborg thing, around, him. And then like another one, his initials, I make up Ace. So like Ace is something that you can do, that you can kind of brand like itself. So like different things that we kind of do is just helping them understand the type of person that they are, right? Like, so that's where athlete brand started. Like who are you? So I always ask them when I first get on a call, and the reason a lot of athletes, like when they get on a call, me like when I get on a call, because the first thing I ask them is, okay, who are you outside of football, right? Because a lot of times, a lot of agents might not get on the phone and ask you, like, they might get on the phone and be like, hey, are you healthy? Like, and it's like this person isn't a robot sleep, like, so whenever we get on the phone, I always be like, hey, I know your accolades. I looked it up myself, right? Like I know, how many yards you had. Like I know this. Tell me about yourself outside of football. What do you like doing, right? And some of them kind of get stumped on that question because they be like, I think I like this. So then I'm like, okay, let's start here, right? Like, let's establish your brand. Let's talk about this. Whatever, like, who are you outside of football? Because football is what you do. It's not who you are. So, and I always tell them that, like it's what you do is not who you are. Because when the game is over, what do you want to do? So I asked them, what other goals do you have besides making it to the league? Because you asked them, oh, what are some football goals that you have? Oh, I want to get 1,000 rushing yards this season, and I want to make it to the NFL. Okay, after that, right? Because even like when you 35 in the NFL, you're old. 35 in basketball, you're old.
Hey,
I know a lot of 35-year-olds right now that your life is probably just starting, like, so after 35, if you even have a fruitful career, to make it to 35 in the league.
35 is late, yeah.
For me, what are you doing after that? And most times, some don't make it at 35. Some, you're retired from the league at 27. I'm like, what, 27? So what are you going to do after 27? So so I always ask them, what is it that you want to do, right? So athlete branding starts with who is the person that you are outside of football. So if you, like working with kids, or that's something that you do, let's establish your brand around, like your brand around community, awareness, and like make it about, the community, and make it, you're someone who likes being, like around the people, right? Like we can start with that, and we can do some stuff in the community. We can do some stuff, with kids and anything that's sort of, even nicknames that they might have. Like we try to create logos based off nicknames, based off things that they might have, and every athlete, does that. So if you put it on shirts, what is something that people are going to recognize, right? So like people are going to recognize a initial named Ace, like, so it's like just different things in that sort. So everybody have their brand. Like one of my athletes, he's from where I'm from. he's from Liberia. So he likes that Liberian community. You know, he wanted to do work back there as well. So establishing his brand around a global community, right? And that's something because it's people over there who don't know who he is. So establishing their brand outside of football, that's something that they want to do, you know, and who they are outside of football.
And I like that you're saying that, like, you're not only trying to brand them right now for their pro athlete dreams, but you're trying to give them a brand that they can take and make money off of it and
make lucrative.
Yes, sorry, that word just completely left me. You are giving them a brand that they can monetize forevermore outside of just the league. Because as we know, like you said, being in your 30s is late. There's so many people who bust a knee, tear something, injures this, do that, or just don't even like it. It's a lot of pressure to go pro.
Yeah, because it's business at that point. It's not even like, oh, I'm playing football because I love to. It's like, yo, this is how I pay the bills. Yeah. And there's a different level that people don't always realize. Yeah, making money off your passions is fun, but when you maybe not get on a good team or you don't like your coach, or like, it's more than just getting into the league. Now it's performing with the best of the best of the best. And you're not the best on the field anymore all the time, you know? So I love the fact that you're giving your clients purpose. I think that is super important, you know?
And I'll say, as a woman, I like that you're giving your clients a story. Everyone needs a story. Everyone, when it's to have a really successful brand, you need to have people have to relate to something. So like that you're giving them a story and giving them an actual persona, because we see so much in the media of like, it's like it's an athlete and they're like, oh, okay, work. And then like athlete gone wild, some crazy thing happens. And no one knows who this person is to even say, like, is it true? Is it not true? Like, what is even about? So I think I like that you're like, I'm trying to show them as a person and give them likeness instead of giving them just like, oh, he plays a sport or she plays a sport. And I appreciate that as a woman because I'm not really into sports too much. So me looking at a profile of an athlete, I'm like, oh, I might not be interested in your stats and your game replays, but like, oh, he volunteers, or oh, he really likes cooking, or oh, he's a global citizen. Like, I can relate to that. Yeah. He likes to travel. I can relate to that.
Yeah. So like one of our clients, so like Amir, you know, shout out to Amir. She, you know, and so like, you know, when it comes to social media, I'm not a big social media person. So when it comes to figuring out the different algorithms or all the social media stuff, like, I'm not the person, but she understands that, you know, beyond measures, right? So one of the things that she first noticed, she was like, hey, like, he don't have anything on his profile besides pictures of him playing football, right? We need to clean this up, right? Because it's like you said, you need to have an identity outside of football, because everyone that looks on your page, even certain brands is going to see, and they want to see you have more of a personality. Like, they want to see, they want to be able to, you know, have you be relatable. So with certain brands, they like, okay, if this person just has pictures on his page, we don't really know how to, you know, brand him or who his target audience is going to be, because all he does is play football. So his target audience is going to kind of be limited, because like you said, everyone probably don't watch football, right? But then you have a athlete who on his page, they see that he's, you know, donating, you know, he's volunteering, he has, you know, a business, he has something that he's do outside of football. They're like, okay, we can tap into these other, you know, places and these other audience groups and kind of brand him from that direction. So she, like, that was the first thing she noticed, right? And, you know, and I appreciate Mary for that, because that was the first thing she noticed. She said, he needs to clean up this page, right? Like, there is just, you know, and since then, he has been doing that. And since then, he, you know, like, working with us has increased his following 10%. And this is just in like a 3-month time period. So it's like, noticing that, like, as soon as people change their identity, you know, or establish the identity of who they are, you might tap into different, areas that you did not know that you can tap into. And now different people are following you. And that's how you get your followers up, to be honest.
So I have a question. Excuse me, Jay.
Yeah.
Definitely. I see you had a question as well. But this is really on my mind. We've talked a lot about, your athletes and your clients and what you've done for them. And I think it's beautiful, but it also brought the question of how has doing this work impacted you? Because you've been doing it for a couple years now. I know you kind of started when you were still in one of your programs. And so from going there into being where you are now, how has this work impacted you? Like, maybe what's the most impactful moment, or like a certain story that really sticks out to you? I know you gave the one with your first client, but like since then gaining more clients, like how has this work impacted you?
Impacted me in what aspect? Because it
impacted you, like, actually, I'm gonna leave it open. Whatever way you interpret. I think there's a couple ways that you can go, but I'm interested to hear.
No, so I mean, one, I've noticed that I like helping people, right? And that's something that before, just I didn't really, couldn't really, like see, because I wasn't. Sometimes you'll do the work, but you don't actually see a lot of the results from it. Like, I stay in the background a lot on a lot of stuff. I don't like put in, like my face out there, but I like helping people without pretty much getting a lot of recognition for it. Like, it doesn't really, like, get for me. And even since, like when we did like the HBCU cookout, right? It's people who didn't even know we threw the cookout, right? Like in Philly, because it's like we don't like putting our face on stuff, but we just like giving people a sense of community and like people, having a space. So it's essentially the same thing with this. Like, I feel happy for my clients after every deal, everything that we do, because it's not like me reaping benefit for being able to see that they're happy with the work that's being done. Kind of makes me feel, like I'm not gonna lie, like it's like it makes me feel good about myself. It makes me feel that I'm actually helping people, right? And I realize that I like helping people, and other ways that it have impacted me. Other people have noticed, right? And that's one thing that that I say, like other people have noticed, like the work that's being done, and that can put you into spaces that you didn't know, before. Like I just said, I just had an event where literally, like event after, the Steve Harvey golf tournament, right? And like being able to be in that room with a lot of different people who, and like build those connections with people who literally are well into their profession, and being probably one of the youngest or the youngest in the room speaks volume. And then the person who invited me going around and introducing me as his business partner, it says a lot, right? And that's one way that it has impacted me. Like, it have put me in spaces that I didn't think I would even be in, right? And like kind of show me that I actually do like what I'm doing, right? So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
That's a perfect answer. I wanted to highlight that, and I know you could have taken it multiple ways, but I wanted to highlight that for people in our audience that might be in a space where they're unsure if their work is being seen, or if they're unsure that what they're doing is impactful long term. But like directly to your point, if you are doing what you need to do, and if you're giving back and you're genuinely helping people, you're helping people with integrity and honesty, and just doing it to make the other person better, those things will always come back to you tenfold. And you'll, like, if you keep putting the work in, you'll start seeing results that you never even thought were possible getting started.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then also, like, I want to touch on, so you're now, from where you started to where you are now, you now have, I believe, 4 clients, correct? 4 different athletes.
Yeah.
And you have worked with a variety of different brands now. Can you tell us more about, like, are you still strictly with the NFL and those type of athletes? And what brands have you worked with? I said NFL. I meant to say, like, what different sports That was the question I was asking. Are you
Oh,
strictly with football? I said NFL, and I meant to say football.
got you. Oh no, all good. Yeah, like right now I'm just strictly working with like football, you know, and later in the future, I do want to tap into track. Track and field is like I have a strong love for it, right? But right now, I do love the game of football, and that's where I'm at right now because you got to start somewhere. But eventually, I do want to tap into track and bring on track athletes, and kind of brand them in that way because I know a lot about track. I know the game. I know how to kind of brand track athletes. I just haven't tapped into that industry yet. But right now, it's just strictly football, and like we have worked with some local brands as well as some national brands and stuff. One of our first deal was with Play Pits. So they're Play Pits is a Black-owned deodorant brand, Black woman-owned, and a shout out to Chantel, so she's based out here in Atlanta. She started this brand for kids, essentially, because came up with the idea that kids, they'll go in there, run around all day, but do kids use deodorant? And I had to think, and I was like, like, I don't know what age I started using deodorant. So she came up with this idea and tapped into this that people were not, talking about. And she made this, deodorant for her sons who play sports, and they were coming in and, smelling, little boys be smelling a little funky.
Yeah, I feel a little right.
So she started this brand, and later on, after the brand did so well, like they have, like they sell out on Target all the time. They're at Target, they're on Amazon, like this brand is taking off. So she decided to start an adult, line with it. And when I met her, I brought up the idea of, hey, like, would you mind having an athlete, rep yourself? So that was one of our first deals. And since then, we have, done deals with different brands, Hooters. We have a campaign with Hooters that we're doing in, later in when football season start. So Hooters, Insomnia Cookings. I just talked to Samsung. So this is about to be one of my biggest deals, yeah. Like one of my clients.
The main exclusive that I'm hearing.
Yeah, sound effects. Like, we're gonna start getting y'all sound effects.
So like Samsung is probably gonna be the biggest company that I probably have had a conversation with. So and a lot of these campaigns right now, we're just getting ready for the fall, when football season start.
Yeah.
So because when it comes to brands, they like when the person that's repping their brand is on TV every Saturday, So in the summer times, it gets a little slow. So I make it, my best to kind of reach out as many brands that I can during this off season. So once the fall rolls around, we get everything ready. So when the fall rolls around, they can just focus on football because we have already took pictures, videos, did stuff for the brand. So yeah, like that's just, so like the name of it, like, like Hooters, Insomnia, Samsung, and then we have essentially worked with some like local brands, Rocky Mountain Pizza, which is a, pizza, shop here in Atlanta. And I ended up building a relationship with the owner. And not only was I able to bring on my client onto the deal, but I was able to bring his teammates, like 3 of his teammates who I don't represent, right? Who I don't represent. And some other, marketing agents might look at that as naive because I'm not getting any money from these people who I don't represent or getting anything from them. But like I say, I like helping people, right?
It's
and I know
integrity. It's all about the integrity.
Exactly. So I know when I first brought it up to him, I was like, hey, what are some teammates that that you would like to, bring on this with you? Because not every athlete is getting deals, right? And that's just something because it's, like I said, sometimes it start with your brand and what you're doing. So his teammates were very, very grateful, about this deal, me bringing them on it, to the fact that I have relationships with his teammates now and other people in the spaces. And like I said, that's how you kind of get your name out there. And that's how I established my brand, right? Establishing it with with integrity and showing that I can actually do the work without wanting something in return, right? So even one of his teammates asked me one time, he was like, so like, what do you gain from this? Right? Like, what do you gain from this? Are you just doing this out of the kindness of your heart? And I was like, I mean, obviously I'm trying to build my brand too, right? So I won't say that kindness to my heart because, the kind of sound, but I was like, I'm trying to build my brand too. So the same way I'm helping him build his brand, I'm building my brand too, because so when people come and I end up getting other clients in the future, they can look and see the work that I have done. So that's essentially the only thing that I'm gaining from it, is helping myself establish where I'm trying to be.
And then even on top of that, though, it's also, if they ever leave their agents, it's like, yo, your agent got no money from me. He got nothing from me other than like likeness, name likeness, and brought me on this project too. I want to work with your agent. Or, I see the brands that you're doing with your agent. I see how he's marketing you. I want to work with your agent. Like now your name's circulating. Now it's like, yo, my homie, his agent is super dope. Like he's accessible. He talks to him. He actually like teaches him. He helps him. He puts them in the spaces that he needs to. Yeah. So that, like you said, for them to go pro, they're not in these spaces. Why that bushy tail being led by someone who's draining them pocket wise?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. I saw like that idea came from, I was actually, like, I watch a lot of interviews, a lot of podcasts and stuff, and certain that I was listening to a podcast with Maverick Carter. He's one of LeBron James, longtime friend and also business partner. And he was talking about how they did a deal with Beats by Dre. When Beats by Dre first came out, Dr. Dre, they, came up with, Beats by Dre. And he was saying how he kind of, where when LeBron did the deal, they ended up telling LeBron to, hey, we're going to give you, because at the time LeBron was on the USA team, they were going overseas, and this USA team had literally all of the best players in the league, Carmelo Anthony, Kobe, like everybody was part of this team. So they was like, hey, we're going to give you a few headphones, and we want you to just give it out as gifts, right? And Beats by Dre is now probably one of the biggest, like headphones brands that's like in the country, like globally, because now he was able to give those, as gifts. And now all of these players on the USA team, they're on a global, TV, and everybody's going to see them, and they're going into the game wearing Beats by Dre. Like, people have never, at the time, never really seen this brand. They're like, So now everybody want to know why all these athletes have this thing. So I kind of
top athletes use obviously top quality.
So I kind of look at it from that point of view as like the deal, so incorporate them in the deal is also to, allow them to be able to have something as well, but also help him establish his brand. And also if those your teammates, like two of them are on defense with him, one is on offense, but now your teammates are trusting you on the field, right? So this is not only just a branding, thing from, getting a deal, but also to help you in what exactly you want to do, which is play football, right? Like, on the long-term thing. So now going into the season, you and your team has already had trust, but now y'all kind of have a little more trust because y'all are working on this thing together, right? So now when you under, like, one of the, guys on the deal is his fellow linebacker, right? So now both of you guys is on there, and that with working with this brand together, it kind of gives you that, like, on the field, you're just insane, right? Because you've been building this relationship, for the last couple of months, working with this thing together, and that's just kind of like the, like essentially like the idea, kind of putting people in spaces and kind of not just helping, and also incorporating those other athletes on the deal. It helped that company as well. And that was, like I said, the idea from like Maverick Carter, like it helped that company. People know Rocky Mountain because it's right next to Georgia Tech, but how many people really, know it if you're not tapping into it. So
for sure. Definitely, bro. Thank you so much for coming on today and just sharing your story. I think our audience is going to catch a whole lot of value from everything that you've shared today, and they can even catch more from connecting with you on the gram. But before we get into social medias and stuff, generally we do a bag drop at the end of our episodes. And so if there is
bag drop,
Yeah, bag drop. You know how mic drops is one thing, but like when you drop a stack of money, like, well, we want to have a lot of money.
You drop a stack of money, it's gonna make people stop and listen more than it's gonna make a bag of money.
So you like, so if you drop in gems on the
I like that.
You drop so many gems on the audience, but if you could leave them with one final thing, what would it be?
So sort of one final thing is don't underestimate the bird with the crooked wings, because that's an angel depending on how you look at things. So essentially, like what that means is that like sometimes we don't, like when we see something, it's essentially a don't judge a book by its cover type of thing, because sometimes we'll see something and it looks a certain type of way, and we don't ever give it a chance because of how it looks, right? So that bird that you actually think just looks messed up and got crooked wings the whole time is probably an angel, right? That's coming to actually save you. So sometimes you like don't underestimate that bird with the crooked wings, because that's an angel depending on how you look at things. So
that's beautiful.
I like that. Beautiful. I'm literally writing the quote down right now.
When y'all get that tatted, make sure y'all put Paul Johnson under that.
Okay.
So where can our audience find you on social media? Where can they keep up with your story?
So my personal page is 2_ Paul J. And then they can also follow the business page as well. Is simply just at Resolute Sports Group.
And the link to that will be in the bio of this episode as well, Jace.
And the show notes.
Jace, where can the people find you?
You guys can find me at Instagram and TikTok at Jasia Robinson, and on YouTube at Jasia Robinson. And Ian, where can they find you?
Y'all can find me on Twitter and Instagram at IanB with 2_. TikTok is a little different. It's going to be Ian.B3.
All right. Thank you so much, Paul, for coming on the podcast with us. And we'll see you guys next week. You already know, Monday at 8 a.m. on the dot.